Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's Wraith, and today I'm going to be going over the basics of strategy and tactics in Middle-earth strategy battle game. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, basically, I'm going to go over my thought process when making decisions, both at a macro level, so a whole game level kind of strategy, and a micro level, which is more individual models, or little clusters of models, or maybe warband based strategy. Okay, and these all help towards the end goal, which would be to satisfy the victory conditions and get those victory points. Now, what is strategy? Well, to sum it up, when I say strategy, what I mean is to create a plan of action that will get you to your goal. To start on a strategy, you must break it down into easy steps. There are 5 easy steps that I've come up with that I go through. So, number 1 is, what is your short-term goal? You have to think of what is your short-term goal, whether that be for that turn, mainly it's just that turn, or maybe the next 2 turns. What is the current situation of that turn? So have you got priority? Have they got priority? What's in the immediate vicinity? So is there a Balrog in your face? Have they got a dead Marsh Spectre that might mess with you? Are you trapped? Or is there possibly a situation where you might be getting trapped? Stuff like that. Number 3, what do I have at hand to push to that goal? So I'm talking about what models I have to help me in this situation, what abilities they have, and what can they do. And number 4, what role and micro tasks do each of those components have to achieve to get to that goal? So, as I said, what can they do specifically? So if I've got a magic caster, perhaps they can transfix a big hero. If I've got archers, maybe they can shoot off shots at someone who's running off with a relic, yada yada yada. And number 5, how will this affect the long-term goal, which is winning the game? So, as an example, if I'm playing Contest of Champions, my short-term goal will be to shut down the enemy leader, because we start off quite close to each other. The situation is I have priority and get to move first, while in close range to the enemy leader. I have 5 orcs in range to affect this turn, and a Wraith plus my leader, the Witch King. I know that the one Wraith will have to sap wheel the enemy leader to stop him from resisting, with more dice against the Witch King's transfix, which will stop the enemy from gaining kill points this turn, whilst my leader can then charge and get a head start. I also have orcs that can screen my leader as a backup from counter charges, or if they call heroic moves. This will aid in the long-term goal of winning by denying points to my opponent whilst gaining me points. This was a simple example, but this is how I break down each part of my army when I start thinking of what to do in my turn. If you do this, you'll find your army will be much more efficient and effective each turn, and you'll always have a strategy in mind. This is a basic example of micro strategy. Now, for macro strategy, it is much the same, but you break down your whole army into smaller chunks, but not so small it's individual model based. Okay, all of these will have a task, but will end up contributing to an overall goal. So, the first example is in play for my centre, but my flanks may have the task to simply encircle around to cut off any way that the enemy force can escape from my 2 Wraiths that are in prime position to take down the enemy leader, which will result in me winning the game. So just try and reference the list above for when you're using micro strategy, and then break it down for each part of your force when you're thinking about micro strategy. That's pretty much the simplest way I can put it of how I think. Once you've used that system a few times, it'll become second nature, and you'll be able to do this for your whole army in no time at all, and be ready to execute the strategy. Cool. Yeah. It's pretty much more you do it, the quicker it becomes, and you don't have to think too hard. You'll maybe take 2 minutes, have a quick look, sort it out, happy days. Now, tactics. I define a little differently. It is what you have practiced and already planned out with your force for when you do get into contact with the opponent's force. As an example, my tactic to deal with big heroes with my Goblin Town is to ensure Gollum with the ring is close to the Goblin King and charge in with Gollum. And the King to reduce the fight value of the heroes by half, rounding down, making the Goblin King a higher fight value guaranteed. It gives me 5 dice with 4 might at max to get 6 in a dual roll and win the fight automatically. So yeah, and then I can rend or use my burly to wound and hopefully kill that hero. So the point of this, it's a pre-planned play that I always use and have many times. I know it works, so I keep using it. A lot of factions have their own little plays as well. So what you want to do with your faction is discover the tactics that work with your list and basically learn some of the universal Middle-earth strategy battle game tactics. Things like setting up traps or countering cavalry charges. So there's faction-specific tactics and there's universal ones. So we all know how to trap someone. We all know, things like that. But like I stated, the Goblin Town's got that tactic with the Golem Goblin King. You've got there's so many different weird ones. But yeah, you've got things like the if you've got 2 monsters and you're fighting a hero and you do win, you can hurl that said hero if you win with one monster, and then the second one can then barge and charge into that prone hero. There's loads of different ones, all faction specific, so you'll have to have a look around. So basically, if you have these ready to use, you won't even need to think about them before you use them. You'll see the situation and put them into play. It's pretty fantastic. I am working on something where I'm doing a personal tactic for each faction. So stand by for that. I'm working on some form of book format, I'm thinking. So don't feel too disheartened or overwhelmed if you're relatively new to the game. Just take this as a helpful hint that you can implement later on in the game. Once you start playing more, it becomes more natural, like I said. But you need to break down each step. Even for like the big strategies, you can use the same step, which is, what is your short-term goal? What is your current situation? What do I have at hand to push to that goal? What role and microtask do each of those components have to achieve to get to that goal, whether that be warband based or individual model if you're looking at macro or micro? How will this affect the long-term goal, winning the game? So fantastic. That's all I've got to say. This is just a really quick basics of strategy and tactics video. If you liked it, do consider hitting the like button. So I know people like these kind of like breakdown videos or quick ones. And if you're feeling especially saintly today, do consider subscribing. But even if you don't do either of those things, I still hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.